first time you see my face, I think. I mean, if it's not the first time you see my face, then I must know you personally, because I don't leave my little shack here very often. I'm Rhett the Best. Hi. This video is probably going to be very bad quality, but anyway. I haven't posted anything in a really, really long time, so I thought, I had a thunk, yes, very surprising, that I will try this new thing out. I'm going to start a series, and hopefully I'll do at least one a month, if not one a year. Hopefully more often than that, but knowing me, you know, I'll probably do a few and then, like, forget about it. But my idea is that each time I record myself, I will record myself reading the first chapter or prologue and chapter, depending on the length, of the first book in one of my favorite book series. I will later probably throw in some of my own stories, because, you know, I write some. Anyway, so let me know what you guys think about it. And if you have an idea for a series that you like, that you'd like me to read the first chapter in, let me know. Comment. Anyway, so the first book series I want to do is the Skulduggery Pleasant series. It's by a guy named Derek Landy. I think he's Irish. He's awesome. In the U.S., where I live, the first book is retitled The Scepter of the Ancients, but the original one, which is the one I'm reading, is titled Skulduggery Pleasant. It's an amazing series. It's funny. It has a skeleton in it. And, you know, who doesn't like skeletons? Anyway, so, obvious spoiler warning ahead. Skulduggery Pleasant by Derek Landy, Chapter 1, Stephanie. Gordon Edgley's sudden death came as a shock to everyone, not least himself. One moment he was in his study, 7 words into the 25th sentence of the final chapter of his new book, and the darkness reigned upon them, and the next he was dead. A tragic loss, his mind echoed numbly as he slipped away. The funeral was attended by family and acquaintances, but not many friends. Gordon hadn't been a well-liked figure in the publishing world, for although the books he wrote, tales of horror and magic and wonder, regularly reared their heads in the bestsellers list, he had the disquieting habit of insulting people without realizing it, then laughing at their shock. It was at Gordon's funeral, however, that Stephanie Edgley first caught sight of the gentleman in the tan overcoat. He was standing under the shade of a large tree, away from the crowd, the coat buttoned up all the way, despite the warmth of the afternoon. A scarf was wrapped around the lower half of his face, and even from her position on the far side of the grave, Stephanie could make out the wild and frizzy hair that escaped from the wide-brimmed hat he wore low over his gigantic sunglasses. I don't think it ever states in the series what color that wig is, but I've always imagined it as, like, orange, like a clown. I'm not sure if it really is, though, but that's what I picture in my head. She watched him, intrigued by his appearance, and then, like he knew he was being observed, he turned and walked back through the rows of headstones and disappeared from sight. After the service, Stephanie and her parents traveled back to her dead uncle's house, over a humpback bridge and along a narrow road that curved its way through thick woodland. The gates were heavy and grand and stood open, welcoming them into the estate. The grounds were vast, and the old house itself was ridiculously big. There was an extra door in the living room, a door disguised as a bookcase, which are the best, you know. And when she was younger, Stephanie liked to think that no one else knew about this door, not even Gordon himself. It was a secret passageway, like in the stories she'd read, to make up adventures about haunted houses and smuggled treasure. This secret passageway would always be her escape route. The imaginary villains in the adventures would be dumbfounded by her sudden and mysterious disappearance. But now this door, this secret passageway, stood open, and there was a steady stream of people through it, and she was saddened that this little piece of magic had been taken from her. Tea was served and drinks were poured and little sandwiches were passed round on silver trays, and Stephanie watched the mourners casually appraise their surroundings. The major topic of hushed conversation was the will. Gordon wasn't a man who doted, or even demonstrated any great affection, so no one could predict who would inherit his substantial fortune. Stephanie could see the greed seep into the watery eyes of her father's other brother, a horrible little man called Fergus, and he nodded sadly and spoke somberly and pocketed the silverware when he thought no one was looking. Thief. Fergus's wife was a thoroughly dislikable, sharp-featured woman named Beryl. She drifted through the crowd, deep in unconvincing greed, prying for gossip and digging for scandal. Her daughters did their best to ignore Stephanie. Carol and Crystal were twins, 15 years old, and as sour and vindictive as their parents. Whereas Stephanie was dark-haired, tall, slim, and strong, they were bottle blonde, stumpy, and dressed in clothes that made them bulge in all the wrong places. I hate it when people dress like that, you know? Apart from their brown eyes, no one would have guessed that the twins were related to her. She liked that. It was the only thing about them she liked. She left them to their petty glares and snide whispers and went for a walk. The corridors of her uncle's house were long and lined with paintings. The floor beneath her feet was wooden, polished to a gleam, and the house smelled of age. Not musty exactly, but experience. These walls and these floors had seen a lot in their time, and Stephanie was nothing but a faint whisper to them, here one instant, gone the next. Gordon had been a good uncle, arrogant and irresponsible, yes, but also childish and enormous fun, with a light in his eyes and a glint of mischief. When everyone else was taking him seriously, Stephanie was privy to the winks and nods and half-smiles that he'd shoot his way when they weren't lurking. Even as a child, she understood him better than most. She liked his intelligence, his wit, and the way he didn't care what people thought of him. He'd been a good uncle to have. He taught her a lot. She knew that her mother and Gordon had briefly dated. Courted, her mother called it. But when Gordon had introduced her to his younger brother, it was love at first sight. Gordon liked to grumble that he had never gotten more than a peck on the cheek, but he had stepped aside graciously, and quite happily gone on to have numerous tour affairs with numerous beautiful women. He used to say that it had almost been a fair trade, but that he suspected he lost out. She climbed the staircase to the first floor and pushed open the door to Gordon's study and stepped inside. The walls were filled with the framed covers of his bestsellers. They shared space with all manner of awards. One entire wall was made up of shelves jammed with books. Their biographies and historical novels and science texts and psychology tomes, and there were battered little paperbacks stuck in between. The best kind of library. A lower shelf had magazines, literary reviews, and quarterlies. She passed the shelves that housed first editions of Gordon's novels and approached the desk. She looked at the chair where he had died, trying to imagine him there, how he must have slumped. Just lost my place. Sorry. Then a voice so smooth it could have been made of velvet. Let me try that again. And then a voice so smooth it could have been made of velvet. At least he died doing what he loved. She turned, surprised, and saw the man from the funeral in the overcoat and hat standing in the doorway. The scarf was still wrapped, the sunglasses still on, the fuzzy hair still poking out. His hands were gloved. Yes, she said, because she couldn't think of anything else to say. At least there's that. You're one of his nieces, then, the man asked. You're not stealing anything. You're not breaking anything. So I guess you're Stephanie. She nodded and took the opportunity to look at him more closely. She couldn't see even the tiniest bit of his face beneath the scarf and sunglasses. Were you a friend of his? She asked. He was tall, this man, tall and thin, though his coat made it difficult to judge. I was, he answered with a tilt of his head. This slight movement made her realize the rest of his body was unnaturally still. I've known him for years. Met him outside a bar in New York when I was over there, back when he had just published his first novel. Stephanie still couldn't see anything beyond the sunglasses. They were black as pitch. Are you a writer too? Me? No. I wouldn't know where to start. No, but I got to live out my writer fantasies through Gordon. You had writer fantasies? Doesn't everyone? Yes, everyone does. I don't know. I don't think so. Oh, then that would make me seem a little odd, wouldn't it? Well, Stephanie answered, it would help. Gordon used to talk about you all the time, boast about his little niece. He was an individual of character, your uncle. It seems that you are, too. You say that like you know me. Sharp-willed, intelligent, sharp-tongued. Okay, let's start over. That was wrong. Strong-willed, intelligent, sharp-tongued. Doesn't suffer fools gladly. Remind you of anyone? Yes, Gordon. Interesting, he said, because those are the exact words he used to describe you. The man's gloved fingers dipped into his waistcoat and brought out an ornate pocket watch on a delicate gold chain. Ah, he said, I must be off. It was good to meet you, Stephanie. Good luck in whatever you decide to do with your life. Thank you, Stephanie said a little dumbly. You, too. She felt the mad smile, though she could see no mouth, and he turned from the doorway and left her there. She found she couldn't take her eyes off of where he had been. Who was he? She hadn't even gotten his name. She crossed the space to the door and stepped out, wondering how he had vanished from sight so quickly. She hurried down the stairs and reached the large hall without seeing him. She opened the front door just as a big black car turned out into the road. She watched him drive away, stayed there for a few moments, then reluctantly rejoined her extended family in the living room, just in time to see Fergus slip his silver ashtray into his breast pocket. That was the first chapter. Like I said, it's witty, it's fun, it's a mystery. It's awesome. That's all you need to know. Read it. I highly recommend it. It's hard to get these books in the U.S., so I had to order them overseas from Amazon. And if you're into audiobooks, the guy who reads the first several audiobooks is really good. You can get like the first 3 audiobooks on iTunes. I think he has more than the first 3, come to think of it. I can't remember how many. But most of the series isn't on audio in the U.S. I'm not sure if they're on audio elsewhere, but they're not on audio in the U.S. But anyhow, it's one of my favorites. I will do more of these, not Skulduggery Pleasant, but other series. And my favorite author, I'm waiting to do because her books are kind of confusing, and I want to get a hang of what I'm doing before I actually go and mess up my favorite.